Okay, so what does photoelectric effect mean is it's there in the name itself. Like, you have the word photo in it, you have electric in it, and it is an effect. Okay, so what effect is it, how it is being affected? So this is what photoelectric effect is. Okay, so photoelectric effect is basically photo when light falls on some highly reactive metals like potassium, metal like cesium, then electrons are ejected. So that's where the electric effect, part of the thing comes from. That's all there is. So you have a metal, light falls on it, then electrons are ejected. Like, shine a flashlight over, some potassium, and electrons are ejected. Obviously, you can't see those electrons because electrons are like really, really tiny. But if you connect it in a circuit, then you can see that the ammeter is gonna show a different reading. And it all happens because you shine that light over that metal. Okay, so this is like the extremely simple, fundamental, basic effect of what exactly photoelectric effect is. Explanation, right? Obviously, there's some like, if you go deeper into it, people have studied, and there's some conditions like light of all radiations are not going to cause this effect. Like, it varies between metal to metal. Some metals will readily eject electrons out, some metals it takes a little bit of energy to eject the electrons. And ejection of electron means electrons are getting out of it, right? So the kinetic energy of the electrons that are getting out, like, sometimes it's fast, sometimes it's slow. So we'll get into, when is it fast, when is it slow, when do you get electrons, when do you not get electrons, all of those things. All right. So photoelectric effect, naturally it happens. Like, we use this effect in solar cells. Like, that's how you convert solar energy into electrical energy. So you have solar cells, right? You have these panels all over, like, in solar farm. And even at home, in case you use like a scientific calculator, something not on your mobile phone or computer, you have these engineering calculators, right? So those also use solar cells. Like, they charge up as long as there is light. And how they charge up is they convert the light energy into electrical energy, and that happens by photoelectric effect. Okay. So the experiment is pretty simple. So this is what it is. Like, when certain metals were exposed to a beam of light, then electrons were ejected from them. So this phenomenon is called photoelectric effect. Yeah. Ritu, is that like better? You got it?
Yeah, I understood.
Okay. So observations, like what happened when you did this like photoelectric effect is the electrons are ejected from the metal surface as soon as a beam of light strikes the surface. So it's not something like, oh, you expose it to light for like 2 hours and then these many number of electrons come. It's not like that. It's very instantaneous. You shine light and there's electrons. You shut off the light and there's like no more electrons. It's instantaneous. There is no time lag between striking and the ejection of electrons. Another thing, yeah, Rishad.
Ma'am, I don't know if it is correct or not, but why exactly, I mean, this experiment, why is it needed? Like, what does it actually do?
We'll get to that. Like, once you understand the experiment, we will, like, I'll put it in context how it relates to structure of the atom and all of that. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
All right. So some observations of photoelectric effect. Okay, this is like a simulation of the experiment. So you have metal, like in this case, it's sodium. And there is light directed at sodium. And then you can see that there is a stream of electrons passing by. And you can read the reading, like the measurement of how many electrons are ejected on an ammeter over here. So you can see right now the ammeter is reading 4.3 microamperes. or picoamperes. This is PA, I think. Right. So right now the reading is 4.3. And I can control the photon density and I can control the wavelength or frequency of the light over here, basically energy of the radiation that I'm exposing it to. Okay. Can any of you tell me, like, how do you interpret it? So if I change the frequency over here, or the wavelength or the color of the light, what exactly am I changing?
I have a doubt.
Yeah.
What's photon density?
Yeah, coming to that. So first tell me, what am I changing when I'm changing the wavelength or the frequency?
You're changing the energy.
Changing the energy, correct. Okay. So red, all of these high, lower frequency are like lower energy, higher frequency is higher energy. Now, if I change photon density, what do you understand from photon density? What will I be changing if I'm changing this? Any ideas?
Maybe the number of photons coming now.
Awesome.
Maybe.
Correct, Rishit. So when I'm changing the photon density, I'm changing the number of photons. So the wavelength is still 513, but if I increase the photon density, same energy, more photons are coming. So basically, I'm increasing the intensity of it. Okay. All right. Now, look at the simulation here. You guys need to note down the observations. So this will give you some insights about photoelectric effect. Okay. All right. So right now, photon density is at 0.3 and this is 4.8 amperes. Let's see if I change the wavelength to yellow, or like if I decrease the wavelength. Sorry, increase the wavelength, so I'm decreasing the frequency. So it's at, let's go to around 600 nanometers. Now, what do you observe? What's happening here in the experiment?
No
Number
photons.
of electron projections.
Electrons are not flowing anymore.
Yeah. What does that mean if there's no electrons here?
The photon density is very less.
Photon density to change nahi kiya na humne. It's the same density. I've only changed the wavelength. So no electron means what? Like why are there no electrons? Yeah.
No energy.
No electricity.
No electricity. Like why is there no electricity? Like think of it from the point of view of photoelectric effect. Why is there no electricity?
The energy is low.
Energy is low. If the energy is low, like no electricity is a consequence of no electrons. But why are there no electrons here?
The energy is not like high enough to sort of let the one free atom from sodium go.
Correct.
Atom, no, sorry, electron.
Electrons, yes. So low energy, no electrons, because electrons are not getting ejected. Electrons are not moving from here at all. So that is one observation, one inference that you can draw from here.
I didn't get it.
No, so basically I decrease the energy. So at this particular energy, when the wavelength is 600 nanometers, electrons are not being ejected. Like you can see, that's what is happening, right? Like when I decrease the energy at 600 nanometers, no electrons. That's why there is no electricity. Why no electrons here? Because they're not getting out of sodium. It's not being ejected out. Let me increase it to 575, 576. Still no electrons. What about 550? 550, still no electrons. Okay, let me go to 500. What do you see here? When I change from 600 to 500,
Electrons start flowing.
Flow of electrons.
there is flow of electrons. So electrons are being ejected at this point, at this particular this thing. Okay. So what do you infer from this? At a lower energy, there was no electrons. At a higher energy, there are electrons flowing. So based on these 2 points, what can you say? Like what logical conclusion will you figure? Like imagine you're the scientist here and these are the observations you came across. What will you say?
The energy that it's at right now, like that's how much energy it took for like it to let the electrons break from the last shell of the atom.
Yeah. So, or in other words, can I say you need like a minimum amount of energy to get the electrons out?
Yes.
So that is important point number 1, that you need like for any metal, you need like a minimum minimum energy is to be given for photoelectric effect to occur. Okay, so that particular minimum energy is something called the work function. Okay. So work function is usually denoted by W naught. I guess you'll also see it. Yeah, work function is one name to it. Another term is also used, it's called binding energy. Okay. Note this down. So work function or binding energy represented by W naught is basically it's the minimum energy required to eject electrons out of a metal surface.
Could you repeat the definition?
Yeah. So it's basically the minimum energy required to eject electrons out of metal surface. You can write it in short form because these terms you need to understand. You won't be asked for like definitions as such, but when you come across it in questions, when you apply the formula, you just need to understand the context, the concept. It's a minimum energy required to eject electrons out of metal surface. So whole of photoelectric effect is applicable only to metal surface. So whenever I say eject electrons, it is only in metal surfaces.
Will they ask questions based on this experiment, like diagrammatic and stuff?
Yeah, so we will, like there are numericals based on that.
On the diagram, like on the
Not
experiment?
on the diagram. Like this is important for your understanding of it, to visualize how photoelectric effect happens, like what exactly is happening. But yeah, you won't be asked to draw the diagram and or anything like that.
The work function is different for like each metal, right?
Yes, so that's another important point. It is a characteristic of the metal, so it depends purely on what metal you're taking. So sodium will have a different work function, potassium will have different, cesium will have a different one, iron will have a completely different work function. So it's a characteristic of the work function of the metal.
Ma'am, I have
Yeah.
a silly question. So they eject electrons, right? Then why
Yeah.
do we say it as photon density and not electron density or something like
Oh,
that?
this is not photon density. So photon density is something that's under your control. That's something that you are going to control. Photon density is the intensity, like how many photons are you exposing this thing to.
Oh, right. Yeah, right. Okay, got it.
Yeah. Okay, so once you've noted this down, there's some spin-off terms based on work function. So work function is the minimum energy, right? So it is energy value denoted by W naught. Maybe some books you'll also see it denoted by E naught. Now again, this energy is basically energy of the electromagnetic radiation. So obviously it's like E naught, you can also write it as H nu naught or Hc by lambda naught. So basically the frequency associated with work function, like if you're talking about the radiation in terms of its frequency, then it's called threshold frequency. So if you're not given the work function, if you're given the threshold frequency, then you have to like convert that threshold frequency into energy and then do your calculation. And this name work function is like completely out there, but threshold frequency makes sense, right? Like it's on the threshold. So anything below the threshold frequency, you won't have photoelectric effect. At threshold frequency, you will just have photoelectric effect, and beyond it, you're going to have like proper threshold frequency and above, you will observe photoelectric effect. Anything below it, there's
Constant value for threshold frequency, or is it the same? Like it's different for different metals?
different for different metals. Like again, threshold frequency is derived from your work function itself. Like if you have threshold frequency and you're calculating H nu out of it, you get your work function. It's basically application of the formula E equal to H nu. So if you're talking about it in terms of energy, it's called work function. If you're talking about it in terms of frequency, it's called threshold frequency.
Would we have to
Ma'am.
remember the
Difference.
No, you don't have to remember. You'll be given the values in the numericals.
Excuse me, ma'am. So, like, just like threshold frequency, do we also have threshold wavelength?
Yes, you'll have threshold wavelength. But in the case of wavelength, is it going to be the minimum wavelength or maximum wavelength?
Maximum.
Maximum wavelength, correct. Because inverted, inversely proportional. So you have
threshold frequency minimum, right?
yes, threshold frequency is minimum because directly proportional to energy. So if energy is minimum, then this also will be minimum. So you can write threshold wavelength.
Ma'am, I have a doubt.
Yeah.
What's the difference between like H nu naught and normal H nu? Like what's the naught
Oh,
for?
it's just the representation, because this is like a special frequency that is telling you that, oh, this is the minimum energy required to this thing, right? So that's represented by naught. H nu is like a general thing, like any frequency, any energy that you calculate, that's H nu.
But like in the question, if we have to find out this and they give like frequency, like we can still apply this formula, right?
Yeah, it's the same formula. It's just differentiating from, this is not anyway. Once we do numericals, it will fall into context. Get it? For now, just note down this representation. Okay, so this is one important point about photoelectric effect, that it doesn't happen at all wavelengths. It happens like you need a minimum energy or a maximum wavelength up to which it can happen. Okay. So let's look at some other variations with wavelength itself. It is somewhere between 500 and 550, right? So let's calculate. Let's see what is the threshold wavelength for this. Yeah.
So if we like put purple, like violet or purple light, then the number of electrons ejected would be the most, right?
I don't know that yet. So that is part of the experiment that we'll be doing it. Okay. So at 543 nanometers, okay, 547 nahi hai, 545. So at like just 545, electrons are just started to eject, right? Okay. So threshold is somewhere around 545, 546 nanometers. So that's one thing. What if I increase the wavelength to a lot, as Kaveri said? If I increased it to like almost 400, what changed? Is it the number of electrons or something else?
The speed at which they travel.
But the number is fewer. It seemed more constant near like 545.
Number, okay, don't like count this. Look at the ammeter reading for the number of electrons, because that's like your direct reading of the current, right? And the current is like the flow of the electrons itself. So if you're expecting a change in the number of electrons, then you need to look at the ammeter reading. Okay.
What was the reading earlier?
Let's see. Somewhere in green, yellow. Okay. All right.
It looks the same.
So it's somewhere between 4.8 ke aspas, 4.79, 4.81. So, and on an average, 4.8, it's hovering around 4.8, right? The ammeter reading. And you can see, okay, electrons are, it's going at a certain speed. Yes. If I take it to blue. Now what's happening?
Still the same, but it's now dropping to 79. Oh, it just did. Never mind.
Yeah, ammeter reading is the same, but what changed because I changed the energy here?
The time period between the electrons.
Yeah, Sanat, you mentioned this earlier. Now Smera also got it. The speed of the electrons has increased. So observe the flow of electrons. I'll increase it further. Here it's even more evident. And the gap between electrons is increased because Ritu, the electrons are going so fast that the next one doesn't have the time to catch up to it. So that's kind of how you can see it. If I decrease it back to green, you can see that, it's slowed down. That's why it's got like lots of time for the next electron to catch up with the previous one. So main inference, like if I'm changing the energy, if I'm increasing the energy of the electromagnetic radiation, the speed of the electron has increased, but the number of electrons has remained the same. So if the speed has increased in terms of energy, what do you say? Like what energy has increased? What energy is related to speed of anything?
Kinetic energy?
Yeah, the kinetic energy of the electrons has increased. That's why its speed has increased, half mv squared, right? So this is one important formula. So whatever energy that you are giving, whatever electromagnetic radiation is being exposed to it, so that is the sum of, again, energy is conserved, right? So that is equal to the work function plus half mv square. So whatever energy is you're exposing the metal surface to, the electrons you're giving it, how much ever is required to eject it, so the electron takes that much energy to get itself out, and all of the remaining energy is converted into kinetic energy. This is kinetic energy. So the work function doesn't change. So let's say if the work function, hypothetically, it was like 10 joules. This is not accurate or realistic, but yeah, for example, if it is 10 joules, if you give 50 joules of energy, 10 joules used to get itself out, and the remaining 40 joules is basically used in the speed of it, in the motion of it, the kinetic energy. And if you give 100 joules, still 10 joules are used in like getting it out, and the remaining 90 joules is converted to kinetic energy. So the speed is increasing as you increase the length or increase the energy of the radiation, but this 10 joules is remaining constant because that's the only amount of energy required to get the electron out. Yeah, so it's not.
I think, could you explain the kinetic energy part?
Yeah. So basically the concept is that whatever energy you're providing to the electrons, to the metal, this is constant. This is like a property of the metal. So this much energy is used in ejecting the electron, like getting it out. And all of the remaining energy is converted into kinetic energy.
So like E naught is the minimum energy.
Yes.
Plus whatever is remaining, if it's more than that, then the rest of it will be used for kinetic energy.
Correct.
Okay. What is the energy? Just E naught.
Then the kinetic energy is zero. It will just be ejected and it will be like, just here on top of the metal. It won't be. Yeah, it won't be binded to the atom anymore. It like got out and it's just there. Because if I provide it only E naught, it doesn't have any kinetic energy to move at all. So it just like gets out of the atom and that's it.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, minimum E naught is required to eject it out, and anything extra you give it will only result in in the kinetic energy of it. Okay. So how can you increase the number of electrons? Like what factor will change the ammeter reading here?
Increase in kinetic energy.
Increasing kinetic energy, the same electron is getting like a lot of kinetic energy. It'll just start moving more. So how can you get extra electrons out?
Increasing the frequency.
Decreasing the frequency will decrease the energy.
No, increasing the frequency.
Increasing the energy will again increase the energy. So that gets converted to kinetic energy only.
Increasing the photon density.
Yes. Okay. So if I send more intense light, if I increase the photon density, now what do you see has changed?
The ammeter has gone up to 11.
Yes. So the speed is the same, but the number of electrons has increased. That's why there's like lesser gap in between the electrons. See,
the photon density doesn't depend on the wavelength.
No. So you've solved homework problems, right? Photon density is literally like how many photons are you sending out?
So you can energy by the energy of one photon. Like that's the number of photons.
So it's like the total energy of one photon into like the number of photons. So that's the way of get total energy that you're getting. So photon density is the number of photons you're exposing it to. So this
it doesn't go above 1.
This I think is in terms of percentage. Okay, this particular simulation I'll have to check what what details they're sending. But yeah, there's multiple ways of calculating it, right? So density remains per unit, per unit area or per unit for every 100. This is a relative thing. That's why the maximum is 1. So if I increase it to maximum, you can see that the ammeter has increased. If I decrease it, you can see that the current is less. Yeah. So important conclusions from this is 1, the energy of the photon itself, like which is controlled by the frequency or wavelength, is affecting the kinetic energy of the atom. Like first, if it is above the work function, then the electrons are ejected and it affects the kinetic energy of the electrons that are already ejected. But if you're not touching the frequency of wavelength, if you're increasing the energy by increasing the intensity of it, if you are sending a lot more photons, then the number of electrons that are ejected is being affected.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yep.
So which metal has the highest effect?
I think it's cesium. Cesium is the most reactive. Should be cesium.
Okay.
Yeah. But are you guys clear about the distinction between increasing the energy of the photons itself versus increasing energy by increasing the number of photons? Hello, you guys there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So you clear about it, clear about the distinction, because that's a really important point.
Understood.
Okay, cool. So yeah, that's what is written over here. The electrons are ejected from the metal surface as soon as the beam of light strikes the surface. The number of electrons ejected is proportional to the intensity or brightness of the light. So again, recall that intensity is basically a function of the number of photons you're exposing it to. And photoelectric effect is not observed below a certain frequency. That's called the threshold frequency. Or if you're talking about it in terms of energy, the energy of the quantum associated with the frequency is called work function of the metal. Okay. So yeah, at frequencies greater than the threshold frequency, the ejected electrons come out with certain kinetic energy. And this kinetic energy increases with the increase of frequency. So the E naught or nu naught is not changing. It is the kinetic energy that's changing if you increase the frequency. Okay, so this is the formula that you guys have entered. Okay, all right, again, yeah, what's up?
So the effects of changing the threshold frequency will be like the same as the effects of changing the work function.
You can't change the threshold frequency. It is a property of the metal.
And different metals, for different metals, they are directly proportional, right? Threshold frequency.
Yeah, like frequency is directly proportional to the energy. So threshold frequency will be directly proportional to the work function.
So when they say at frequencies greater than the threshold frequency, the ejected electrons come out with a certain kinetic energy. It's the same for work function. We can just replace the threshold frequency.
Absolutely. So instead of frequency, yeah, obviously, because conservation of energy, right? So at energies greater than the work function, the ejected electrons come out with certain kinetic energy. Yeah, that's how you rephrase it.
Okay.
Yeah. So if the metal is exposed to a larger number of photons, then a larger number of electrons are released. And if you are literally increasing the energy of the photon itself, instead of red light, if you are beaming purple, violet light over it, then the number of electrons not going to change. It just the same number of electrons just gonna come out with faster. They just come out faster.
So ma'am, is this why like some lasers they're like violet in color and they're much more powerful than like normal lasers?
Yes, because violet light has more energy than other like a red one or a yellow one. Yeah.
Ma'am, in this entire experiment, is it possible to change the number of electrons?
Absolutely. Same thing, right? Metal is exposed to a larger number of photons. So if you're increasing the brightness of the light, so if you're exposing the metal to yellow light only, but you're making the yellow brighter. So you're making it brighter, meaning you're increasing the intensity of it, which in turn means that you're increasing the number of photons that's hitting the metal. So then the number of electrons increases.
Oh, okay. The velocity remains the same.
Yes, because the color is the same, the velocity remains the same. But because you're giving more photons towards it, that's why this thing increases.
Okay.
Okay, in all of this, I don't know if you guys have observed, but I basically literally explained photoelectric effect in terms of, photons hitting the number of photons and all of that. So I was basically using the Planck's quantum theory to explain photoelectric effect, to figure out, okay, why is the number of electrons changing in some cases, but like the kinetic energy is changing in other cases. Have you guys noted that?
Yes, ma'am.
So photoelectric effect is important because one, it is explainable when you consider the fact that light is, like, if you consider the particle theory of light instead of the wave theory of light, right? Because particle theory of light explains the difference between intensity, where you're increasing the literal number of quanta, the number of photons, and also, like, like if you want to say that, oh, sometimes the electrons have more kinetic energy than other times, then it's the wavelength that's changing. So particle theory of light is like, it just fits like a jigsaw puzzle, explains photoelectric effect. And secondly, photoelectric effect also tells us one important thing, that it proves that, yeah, electrons are outside, like electrons are the outermost things. That is why electrons are getting out easily as compared to and you're not getting photons out. Photons are not being ejected, electrons are getting ejected. So that kind of confirms Rutherford's theory. And thirdly, this photoelectric effect gives rise to, it kind of relates to ionization energy. Do you guys remember what do you mean by ionization energy?
The energy that an atom needs to release electrons.
Correct. And what's happening in photoelectric effect?
Electrons are getting ejected.
Electrons are getting released. So basically, because in photoelectric effect, you have the work function of the metal, right? Or there's like a threshold frequency associated with it. So this tells you that in order to eject the electron, like if let's say this is the metal surface, from the surface of the metal, electrons are being ejected. In order to eject the electron, if this requires like a minimum energy, why are we giving that energy? Like, why is it a minimum amount of energy required? Like, what's happening to the electron there? Why does the electron require this much energy and not anything lesser than that?
Because that's the ionization energy of that particular element.
Ionization energy, yes, like, okay, those are words, but why, like, why is there something called ionization energy? So you need to give it this much amount of energy because atom is held by that much energy. So in order for this particular, electron is held by that much of energy within the atom. And in order to be released, the electron needs to overcome these forces. So in order to overcome these forces, this much amount of energy minimum is required for it to eject it. Okay. So if you were to imagine it, have you guys played with magnets?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
So what happens when when two magnets are like attracted to each other? If you had to separate them, what do you feel like? What happens there? What's that whole phenomenon?
Some kind of force. Like we need to apply force so that it's
Force
separated.
it
So why do you need to apply that force?
to overcome the force of attraction.
Correct. So there's already some amount of force that's attracting this particular magnet, and you need to apply extra energy to overcome this, right? So the exact same thing is happening, except it's not magnetic energy, it is like some other energy. So there's something that's holding on the electrons to the atom. So you need to give this minimum amount of energy for the electron to overcome those forces and get ejected out. So that's, yeah.
So the work function has to be greater than the ionization energy.
No, I would say they would be equivalent pretty much.
No, but it has to overcome the ionization energy, right? It has to be greater than that.
No, we're talking the same things here. Ionization energy is also the minimum energy required by the electron to get released from the atom, right? That's what the conversion of atom to ion is. And work function is also like the minimum energy required by the electron to overcome. So at this point of time, you need to like imagine the context also. So people haven't figured out the structure of the atom, like they didn't know that electrons existed in shells and all of that. So ionization energy, like, okay, it was kind of theoretically known, that, oh, for this reaction to happen, then this much energy is required, and for it to get converted to ion, and then this much energy is used, and like all of those theoretical calculations were there, but because the structure of atom was not known, the ionization energy, as you guys have learned it, that energy required by electron to overcome this, so that wasn't in place. Okay. So at this
So
point of time,
basically, even I had a doubt. Like I think Kaveri wanted to tell that the nucleus that attracts the electron, does that force need to be equal to the work function or greater than that?
Yeah.
minimum required is work function, so then it just gets out.
But to overcome the ionization energy, it has to be more than that, right?
Yeah, greater
So
than
how
or
it-
equal to, greater than or equal to. It's a continuum. Like if you give that minimum, then the forces of the atom, like force of the nucleus, is no longer holding it. If you give anything more than that, it has the power to gain a certain amount of velocity and move further away. So if you give equal, then this is just cut off. If you give anything more than that, this is cut off, plus it goes far away.
So anything more than that, that's why we say that that's kinetic energy.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything more than that, that extra becomes kinetic energy. Yeah. Okay. So this is photoelectric effect, and this is kind of why it's important. Like it put a value of, when you're trying to figure out structure of the atom, you are like 50% of the way there, that nucleus is in the center and electrons are around it. Now Rutherford, something he just gave a qualitative model of the atom, like he just explained that this is how it is, but this is a step in like figuring out quantitatively, okay, what are the energies associated with it and all of those things. Okay. All right, it's 3 o'clock, right? Okay, we have some time. So another final thing that all right, so just couple of problems, like the kind of problems that you would get based on photoelectric effect is, look at 2.3.4. So when electromagnetic radiation of wavelength 300 nanometers falls on the surface of sodium, electrons are emitted with a kinetic energy of this much joules per mole. Matlab 1 mole of electrons are ejected, energy is this much. What is the minimum energy needed to remove an electron from sodium? So what exactly is this question asking? What do you interpret from
You
this?
need to find the work function.
Correct. So you need to find that minimum energy, matlab you need to find the threshold energy or the work function of it. And what is the maximum wavelength that will cause a photoelectron to be emitted?
Could you repeat?
The next part of the question, what is the maximum wavelength that will cause a photoelectron to be emitted?
545 nanometers.
How? Why did you get 545?
I didn't get
No,
it
that was
like in the
based on that
experiment we
experiment,
saw.
right? No, like, okay, within the context of this problem, like how would you find this particular part of the problem after finding the minimum energy?
The kinetic energy would be zero, right? So
Why is kinetic energy zero?
because it's the maximum wavelength.
Don't, like, this is not a completely different question. This is part of this question only. Read the entire question. Like, what's the situation here? See, when an electromagnetic radiation of wavelength 300 nanometers falls on the surface of sodium. So based on this, you can figure out that, oh, this has something to do with photoelectric effect. Also says electrons are emitted here. Okay. So what do you know about photoelectric effect? You know that if you send some energy, then there is minimum like work function associated with it, and the remaining is kinetic energy. Right? All right, let's see. Wavelength of 300 nanometers is falling on the surface of sodium. So what does this represent? 300 nanometers. Iska wavelength hai ye?
Wavelength of light.
Yeah, wavelength of light that you are sending, like wavelength of light that is being beamed on this thing. So is it related to E or is it related to E naught?
E.
Related to E, correct. So using this wavelength, you can calculate E. Let's see, next. Electrons are emitted with kinetic energy of this much. Kinetic energy is like given straightforward. This relates to the kinetic energy. What is the minimum energy needed to remove an electron from sodium? So what are you supposed to find from this, Ritu?
E naught.
E naught, okay. So minimum energy matlab E naught chahiye. Now the next statement says, what is the maximum wavelength that will cause a photoelectron to be emitted?
So the wavelength of E naught.
Exactly, that's correct. Okay. So that's all there is. So yeah, like questions are really easy, direct application based formula. Half the work is in you interpreting the questions here. So that's why you need to know the concept properly, so that even if it's given in different words, you can figure it out. So yeah, so you see the solution, that's exactly what is given. You identify the quantities, kinetic energy and lambda is given. You need to find minimum energy, that is work function, and the maximum wavelength corresponding to the work function. Then use the appropriate concept, the formula that you have, and yeah, find the values that you have to plug into this particular formula. So another important thing is, if you look at the units, 1.68 into 10 raised to the power 5 joules per mole. So the joules per mole says the fact that these many joules per 1 mole of electron. So if you had to calculate how much kinetic energy one electron is getting, how would you find that?
Into Avogadro's number.
Would you do into Avogadro's number or divided by? So this is joules per mole. So this much, like 1.68 into 10 power 5
Divide.
joules are for 1 mole of electron. 1 mole matlab 6 into 10 power 23 electrons. So for 1 electron, how much? So this into this upon this. So you need to divide it by Avogadro's number. So yeah, like that's another thing you need to be careful about, is don't just blindly plug the values. See if like what exactly you're given there. What is it for 1 mole? Is it for single electron? Like what's happening there? Okay,
Ma'am,
do
what
this.
was it? 300 into 10 raised to minus 9?
Wait a minute. Okay, here it is. Yeah, 300 nanometers. So 300 into 10 power minus 9 meters. Yeah.
Ma'am, I had one doubt. I
Mhm.
don't know how much is it. It's kind of silly, but when do we use? I know frequency, so the new naught. When do we use lambda naught?
When you're asked for it. So in this case, the question literally asks you what is the maximum wavelength, right? So once you once you get E naught, then you have to use HC by lambda naught and find lambda naught. Let's say the question, instead of asking, it gives you that, again, it's all completely contextual, Rishit. If you're given frequency, then you use H nu naught. If you're given the threshold wavelength of sodium is this much, calculate the kinetic energy, then you use lambda naught. So it's contextual. So once you know what is what, then depending on the question, what is given, what you need to find out, you use it at that point of time.
So 300 nanometer is lambda naught.
It's not. Kaveri, read the question. We already discussed this. What does 300 nanometers say? Just read the first sentence.
Electromagnetic radiation.
Yeah, electromagnetic radiation, yes, uska wavelength hai. Which radiation is it? Is it the minimum radiation required, or is it the radiation that you are exposing sodium to?
The radiation that we are exposing sodium to.
Yes.
So that's just lambda.
Yes.
So ma'am, when we talk about E naught ka formula, then we will use lambda naught in the HC by lambda naught.
Yes.
But when we just get the energy, we use the normal.
Correct.
Okay.
The knot is there just to tell you that, oh, that is the work function. But otherwise, conceptually, like energy, frequency, radiation, they're all like related in the same way.
Oh.
Found it. Okay, you guys calculating? Also switch on the video, you guys. Now everybody has gone off again. So once you're done with this question, once you've done the calculation and everything, I'll go over a couple more problems, just to show you what kind of problems you'll get on this concept. And then today's homework will be on photoelectric effect. And I kind of wanted to get started on line spectrum also. Ritu has sent. Okay.
I sent it to everyone by mistake. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I don't know if it's correct or not. So I'll just have to wait. Ritu, I've sent the feedback on chat itself. You can check. Also, the kinetic energy given is for 1 mole of electron. So I hope you guys are converting it to per electron. Also, Ritu is the only one on camera. Like rest of you, where are you? Here. I know Kaveri, you came for a little bit. Went off again. Rishit is here. Okay.
It's showing your connections unstable. So I'll just
Oh,
take it off.
take care. Adat, Shreya, Smera, Arnav. Where are you guys at? Like, have you calculated E naught? Like, if you've calculated at least one of the values, if you've finished E naught? Send that in.
Ma'am, so I had a doubt. So in that 1.68 into 10 to the power 5, so we need to make it to 1 electron, right?
Hmm.
So if 1 mole is equal to that, 1 electron is equal to question mark, right? So isn't it just divided by 1?
Is 1 mole same as 1 electron? The units have to be the same. So like whatever, the given energy 1.68 into 10 power 5 is for 1 mole of electron, but you're trying to find for 1 electron, right? So what does 1 mole of electron mean? How many electrons is this?
Okay, so the power of,
Yeah, that's 6 point into 10 power 23 electrons. Then 1 electron is how much? So Rajan, your school is starting today, or is it just the orientation today?
Just the orientation. The school is tomorrow.
Ah, nice. Excited?
It's day after, right? Tomorrow's like,
Hey, some exhibition is there, matlab.
yeah.
Like technically, first lecture will probably be day after.
Oh, what exhibition do you guys have when the year has not even started? Are they gonna show off?
It's some space exhibition with like Vikram Sarabhai Institute.
Oh, okay. So you're gonna have like lectures and things like that, like a talk or.
You know, your guess is as good as mine.
Oh. All right. Smera, where you at? What's happening? Oh. हाँ ठीक है, but like what are you? What part of solving the question are you at? Like, did you get the energy?
I'm stuck in the calculation.
Calculation बहुत ही ये है ना. E naught. So Adat, you got the same value as Ritu. Okay.
Yeah, but
And this is like joules per mole. I divided it like just joules, no mole.
Okay.
I got 1 raised to higher though.
No, you did 0.634, right? She wrote it as 6.34. So if you just convert it, हाँ, तुम्हारा 10 power 19 आएगा. Yes. देखना पड़ेगा. Okay, just compare it. Like this is a solved example, so the details are here. Kinetic energy of one E is given hc by lambda. Huh? What's that?
I'm like, why are we putting 6.626 there? For kinetic energy, we need to put 1.68, right?
That is kinetic energy. This is, they found out E equal to hc by lambda.
But the kinetic energy per mole they have given, right?
Oh, okay. So what this particular thing has done, like this example has done, is instead of converting kinetic energy to per electron, they converted the other two quantities into per mole of electrons. Okay, that could be the reason why there's a difference in the numbers.
So the answer will be different.
Yeah, we just have to divide whatever answer is here by 6.626. So I'll just do that, confirm it off. So the
How much
energy,
till it get? Do we divide or multiply by Avogadro's number?
if you are converting from one electron to 1 mole of electron, then you have to multiply by Avogadro's number. Like, think about it. 1 mole is so many electrons, right? 10 power 23 electrons. So if you're scaling up from single to 1 mole, you have to multiply it. If you're scaling down, like 1 mole is a lot of electron, but you want to convert it to single thing, you're scaling it down. So you have to divide it. Think of it in terms of 1 orange versus a dozen oranges. It's the same concept. 12 is called a dozen, 6.23 into 22 into 10 power 23 is called a mole. That's the only difference.
So from particle to mole, we multiply, and from mole to particle, we divide.
Correct. 2.31 divided by 6.022 will be 0.38. Oh, no, energy required to 1 mole. After that, they converted it here. So the value that's coming over here is 3.84. And yeah, like there's an obvious thing that I didn't consider. Your values would be wrong, because if you want 10 raised to the power 18 joules of energy, which is like 6.34, I don't know, trillion joules of energy. That's a lot. So, okay, let's see. All right. Step 1. Did you guys convert the lambda given into energy? What did you get the value of E as?
6.626 into 10 to the power minus 17.
That makes sense. Yes. So this is 300 into 10 power minus 9. No, this will come niche. 300 into 10 power minus 9. That is the speed of light. So that's 3 into 10 power 8. So this is, yeah, that makes sense. 6.626 into 10 power 34 minus
19,
17.
right?
Minus 17 joules. 17
So did we
hoga.
19?
No,
And then plus 9, right? So you get minus 34
Minus,
plus 8. You get minus 26, and then you take the 9 up. So plus 9, that gives you 19, right?
check again. See, simple. Minus 34. What is 8 plus 9?
17.
Minus 34 plus 17 will be?
Minus 17.
Yeah. Or even if we have to do it your way, 34 minus 8 is how much?
-26. So minus 26.
Minus 26 plus 9.
But when we just divide it, without,
But
I mean,
ma'am,
basically, before the standard form, you get 0.06626, and that is into 10 to the power minus 17.
Oh yeah, there is this 300 also. You're right.
that will
Do
become
not
100.
take into consideration. So divided by 100, 10 square. So that will be 10 power minus 19. Yes. I thought this was 3. I didn't take it as 300. That was my bad. Like 6.626 into 10 power minus 90. Okay. All right. E makes sense. Kinetic energy. You guys are doing this division, right? Like 1.68 into 10 power 5 divided by 6.022 into 10 power 23.
0.27 into 10 raised to minus 18.
Okay. 23 minus 5. Huh. So this I can write it as 2.7 something into 10 power minus 19. Do you guys get this? Can I compare it? I took Kaveri's value, Adat and Ritu. Okay.
Got it.
Okay. So once we have kinetic energy and energy, calculate E naught, we just have to subtract these two. So 6.626 minus 2. So this, when I did it, it's approximately
3.9.
something. And both are 10 power minus 19, so we can just do it directly. So 6.626 minus 2.78. Yeah, so approximately 3.84. Yeah, 3.9 almost. Yes. Yeah, this is the value that you should get. Yeah, that's what is given here also, 3.84 into 10 power minus 19. So how are you guys getting 6.34?
I took it as 3 instead of 300.
But that should just affect, oh right, yeah, then it'll be like 6.626 minus 0.02. Yeah.
Yeah.
इसलिए वो difference आया. Adat, what about you?
Should have taken 300 nanometers, but okay.
You also took 3 in same time.
I mean, it's given already 300. I still.
Yeah. No, I was about to make the same mistake. Completely missed that.
I have like silly doubt. If we get like we need to subtract this, right? So first we need to make both the values in the same power, then we can do it. Or-
That's the easiest way to do it, because then you can take the powers common. Otherwise, how will you subtract 10 power 9 minus 10 power 7? Something should be common, right? Like you can't just subtract exponents randomly. So. Okay, E naught mil gaya. So based on this, you can also find lambda naught using E naught equal to hc by lambda naught. So it'll be E naught on hc by E naught. Okay. So this calculation, yeah, since you guys did the homework, you should be able to do this. Let's skip this for now. All right, look here, guys. Ritu, Adat. Lambda naught, calculate it later, like along with your homework, do it on your own. So other questions that you can see, like 41, 42 and all, you've already done it. Spectral lines and all, we haven't done it yet.
What else is left in this chapter?
What, Rishit?
What else is left in this chapter? Like any other
There's
concept?
a lot left. We just scratched the surface of this. So this is about structure of the atom. You won't complete it until you know what is the structure of atom. There you go. Like look at number 55. Photon of wavelength strikes on a metal surface, and the work function in this case is given, being this much eV. eV is another unit of energy. Like when it comes to the scale of subatomic particles, like in calculations you yourself have seen that you look doing energy in terms of 10 power minus 17, 10 power minus 19 and all. So this is another unit made easy to like basically figure out. Okay, so EV stands for electron volts, and this is the conversion factor. There you go. So if you want to convert electron volts to joules, so 1 electron volt is equal to 1.6 into 10 power minus 19 joules. 1 electron volt is equal to 1.6 into 10 power minus 19 joules. Okay. So this is like conversion thing. Again, do the conversion if necessary. Like that particular question, if a particular question asks you to find out energy in, like, calculate the energy of the photon in electron volts, then yeah, keep, like, you need to convert joules into electron volts. If it says like, can it calculate the kinetic energy in electron volts itself, then keep everything in electron volts. Yeah. So yeah, use logic, use common sense. Don't just blindly follow the process. Oh, the conversion is given right here at the end of the question. Yeah, 1 electron volt is 1.6 into 10 power minus 19 joules. You can use this. So yeah, this is another way of finding. In this case, in the previous question, you had to calculate what is the work function. In this case, you're given the work function, you need to calculate the kinetic energy.
We round off. We round it off to 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19, right?
Yeah, you can do that.
We don't have to solve this now.
No, not right now. Are you guys feeling not confident about these questions? Like, do you want to solve it together?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, let's do 55 only. So the first part, okay, first thing, figure out what all are given. So here also you're given wavelength, but you're given it directly in meters, so that saves you some trouble. Strikes on metal surface, you're given work function in electron volts. Calculate energy of the photon in electron volts. So how would you do the first one?
Find the energy using the wavelength and divide it by the value given.
Yeah. Yeah, use the conversion. 1 electron is much. So yeah, you divide it. Do it. Do the first one, and once you guys find the value, then we'll go on to the second part.
Ma'am, I just had one more doubt about the formula. So there we were given, so the E naught is the minimum energy required, right?
Yeah.
So how can we use that to find the maximum wavelength? I did not understand that part.
Oh, okay. So E naught is the work function. This is the minimum energy. So if you were to express this in terms of frequency, how will you do it?
Then H into nu
H?
into nu मतलब frequency.
Yeah, H into the frequency. So E naught है, इसलिए ये भी nu naught हो जाएगा. So because these two are directly proportional, if energy is minimum, then what will frequency be? Frequency will be minimum or maximum?
Minimum.
Yeah, Rishit?
Minimum.
Minimum. So this also will be minimum, right? So again, this will be
Okay,
minimum.
got it. Inversely proportional. Okay.
Yes. Okay, I'll do this with you guys. Oh, I have assigned question number 40. Okay. Oh, Kaveri has already solved it. In electron volts, Kaveri, the question specifies the energy of the photon in brackets EV. So convert it to electron volts. Or is that the value in electron volts that you got?
No, this is in.
Okay, Ritu has sent it. Sounds about right, kind of. Based on the values. Okay. See. Okay, Kaveri also got, Ritu and Kaveri have already solved it. Yeah, that sounds about right. I'll just confirm it. Yeah. Okay, Ritu and Kaveri, you guys get started on the second part. And the rest of you, what's taking time, you guys? This is pretty simple. Adat, yes, no, wait. Why is that into 10 over there?
Oh, the whole thing will get cancelled.
I mean, if the exponents are the same, they will get cancelled, right?
So it will only be the first term.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Right. Shreya, Smira, Sanat, and Arnav.
Ma'am, I'm stuck on the calculation.
Use a calculator.
In the third sub question, you have to find like the velocity that you got in the kinetic energy emission, right?
Yes. So you equate it to half mv square. That's a formula for kinetic energy. So यहाँ पे m, what value will you take for m?
1.6.
Huh? What is m?
The value of electrons, sorry, the mass
What
of the
value?
electron.
Yeah. Mass of electron, who remembers? If you don't, you can refer to
Tell me.
9.1 into 10 raised to the power minus 31 kg. I'll write it down. For your reference, mass of electron is 9.1 into 10 power minus 31 kg. Smira, yes, you got it correct. First part. Sanat, you're off by 100. Like, why do you have the 10 power 2 over there?
Oh wait, I took it as minus 32.
Ah. Shreya, yes, you got it. So Arnav, just waiting for your answer. So all of you, like once you're done with the first part, get started on the second part. Calculate the kinetic energy.
Ma'am, how will we get V, like the speed?
What's the relation between kinetic energy and speed? You remember the formula?
No.
No? Grade 9 physics, you guys. Kinetic energy is equal to who will say the formula?
Half mv square.
Ah.
Oh,
VE?
this I knew. I didn't like.
Ah.
I thought there was some other relation.
No, kinetic energy is kinetic energy everywhere in the universe, whether it's proton, electron, or like planets and stars. It's half
Do we
mv
have to
square.
root it? Can we
Yeah,
just give the answer like the root?
use a calculator. Again, use a calculator only in class. When you're doing your practice, do the calculation because exam में अपने आप करना होता है. So, Rishit, yes, but also mention the units, okay? Yeah, be kinetic energy, okay, this into, yeah. So Kaveri and Ritu have sent in kinetic energy. Tum dono ka yes, you guys absolutely right. उसके बाद कौन भेजा था? Adat, you should be done with your kinetic energy calculation. That's also pretty simple.
I am. 1 second.
अच्छा, दोनों मिला के भेजे हो क्या, kinetic energy and velocity? और कौन है? Smera, Sanat, Shreya, you guys also need to send it. Yes, kinetic energy is right. Rishit also got it. For the next part, Adat and Rishit, you guys have to convert it back, because if you do half mv square, you get it in SI unit. So this value is, will give you in joules. Sanat, yes, kinetic energy is right.
Ma'am, I did not listen to the mass. What was the mass? Can you just?
I put it
Acha,
here on
oh,
the
you wrote it. Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Acha, just for clarification, any of you guys are using, like, do you attend classes on the mobile phone? Can you just raise your hand or put it in the chat? All right. Okay. There's some things I assume, because if you're using the laptop, yes, you can see everything. But if there's anyone using the mobile, then you'd have to like switch the screen between chat and screen and video and all. So let me know if any of you is on mobile, okay?
Ma'am, can you check my answer?
Can you send the units, Kaveri? Always
Okay.
give your answer with units. You're stuck. Where are you stuck? Is it the calculation?
Yes, I
Use the
don't know how to go
calculator.
calculate.
Use
No,
it.
I don't think I. Okay.
Like abhi ke liye, because concept, right? Like I just want you guys to figure out how to solve questions. The calculation part is the second step of it. Once you get
No,
comfortable,
I
with
got
it,
like
apply.
10 raised to the power 10. I'm not sure how to remove the square root of that.
Simple, like square root of something, matlab
Raised to 1 by 2.
power, this is equal to power 1 by 2. If I have root x, it's x power 1 by 2. Laws of exponents. So if you have 10 raised to the power 10 ka square root, basically half of this.
10 raised to the power 5. Thank you.
If we like, the kinetic energy I put in joules.
Yeah, that value is right.
So the velocity ka unit would be meter per second.
Yes.
So is my answer okay? I think Sanat got the same answer.
Similar.
Oh wait, I put it in everyone. I didn't see.
Exponent way, there's a little bit of difference between Kaveri's and Sanat's answer.
0.58 and his is 5.8.
No,
So
fir bhi, it would be one greater, not one less, if you just convert.
okay.
So. ये कितना है 1 point?
Ma'am, if we took the kinetic energy as EV, then what would be the unit of velocity?
Then it would be something complicated itself, because EV is not like it's not like how you have kilograms, grams. It's not a simple conversion like that, right? EV is something completely different. It is related to the charge on an electron. That's why 1 joule is 1.6 into 10 power minus 19, or 1 electron volt is this thing. So you don't have a direct relation of the units from electron volts to velocity. So when you guys do the chapter in physics, like you have a whole chapter on physics it's called units and measurements. So it'll explain to you what is the relation between units and why you can convert some units directly, you can't, all of that stuff. Yeah. Velocity, all of you are like getting, yeah, that's I think correct. Kaveri, yes, you're also like, yeah, that's right.
After getting it in joules, what should we do?
Which part, Rishabh?
Well, sorry, velocity part. So
Hmm.
which one? So we need to just convert it back.
No. What is the relation between kinetic energy and velocity? How do you find velocity from the
That is
kinetic?
fine. A half mv square. That is the
Yeah.
formula. So we get v from there.
Yeah.
But okay.
That's what you're required to find. What is v? What is the velocity? That's it. Smera got it.
You
Correct.
told me to convert something, right? What was that?
So convert electron volts into joules, because half mv square, the units that you apply for half mv square is equivalent to joules, kinetic energy in joules. So literally the meaning of joules is kg into meter square upon second square. Like that whole, like remember we discussed fundamental units and derived units. So when you multiply kg into meter square upon second square, that's what is called joules. Yeah, Adit, got it. That's right.
Excuse me, ma'am. So, like at this point, how much percentage of the entire chapter are we done with?
So after this, we have to discuss about spectrum, and then we have Bohr's model. After Bohr's model, it gets interesting. Like you have a little small part about Schrodinger's, like Heisenberg's uncertainty principle and de Broglie wavelength, and then you have Schrodinger's electron cloud model. And then you have one more thing about electronic configuration, like how electrons are like in
Oh,
grade
so
9.
basically like those.
Yeah.
So
So like
we're
that
halfway done.
that thing in the electron, right?
Yeah, like SPDF, and the basic
Yeah.
version of it you learn 288 this thing. So this will get into
Yeah.
why is it 288 and how that 2 and 8 and 8 are arranged, all of that stuff. So I'd say
How
we're
is
about,
this related to structure of atom, like what we're doing right now?
because they all of these is leading to, like I just told you, right, based on photoelectric effect, you could put down the calculations of okay, this much energy is required for an electron to get out of this thing. So
all this for that ionization energy.
all this is only a small thing. Like we did it in like 45 minutes. So calculation took almost an hour. Like 2 problems, you guys took an hour to do it. But yeah, part of it. And then there is one more development beyond photoelectric effect related to spectrum. So this is again an important thing.
So like developments leading to Bohr's model, that is like Planck's theory, and then this, and then spectrum.
Yes.
So basically a lot is left.
1/3, because once like Bohr's model and line spectrum is some heavy duty part. And after this, the heavy duty part would be like the final electronic configuration part of it. So another 2 more classes, like if we get to have 2 full classes, 3 hours, then finish the chapter. And also it's like all of this is new stuff. It's not building up from what you already studied. Like you're studying all of this from scratch. So that is taking like extra time. This and the next chapter, chemical bonding. So these two are like really heavy duty chapters. It takes a lot of time. So once you get through both of these, the only chapter that you would need to spend some time on would be organic chemistry, basics of organic chemistry. So we could have breezed through it. Like I could have just told you, look, these are facts, just accept it. But I'm trying to like get you guys used to thinking like this and, you know, giving you the reason behind it as much as I can. We could have done all of this in like one class also, just telling you, oh, this is photoelectric effect, this is how it happens, this is the formula and the problems. But that would be a wrong way of going about it. Okay. Again, could you guys all please come on video? Adit and Ritu are here, but rest of you, please and thank you. Shreya, Smera. Okay. All right. So photoelectric effect, till here, clear about what it is, how to do problems related to it, figure out what's exactly happening to the electrons. Like you give it energy, electrons getting out. The energy is required for the electron to overcome the forces, and then rest of it can use in moving around. Next comes to line spectra. So line spectra is a really important concept. Practically, it's got a lot of applications to it. Okay. So even now, it's not something, a phenomenon that was discovered and like that's it. It is something that's in use even now. Like it's gotten a lot more sophisticated. So this, what we'll be studying is the most basic version of it. Okay. So this is the background behind line spectra. Okay. So when radiation interacts with matter, any kind of matter, the atoms and molecules absorb the energy and they reach an unstable state called excited state. Imagine like if you had excess of sugar, you ate a lot of candy or, you know, drank like a lot of soda. Do you feel, you know, all jumpy, high energy? You feel excited.
Sugar rush.
Sugar rush, yes. So that's exactly what is happening to the atoms and molecules also. Specifically, this happens to the electrons. So electrons in the matter that's present. For returning to the stable ground state, to your natural state, the atoms and molecules emit radiation. So basically, what do you do when you have a sugar rush? You feel like working out all that energy, right? Like you run, jump, you talk, you're spending that energy. So same thing happens to the electrons. So they emit that radiation and they get back to the ground state. Now, how much they absorb, how much they emit is not random. They all have like specific values associated with them. So electron can't take energy of any random radiation. It is capable of absorbing only specific radiation, and depending on how it comes to the ground state, it emits radiation of only specific radiation. Okay. So that is like the crux of, you know, what it is. Now, how does it relate to line spectra? What do you mean by line spectra? Okay. You guys are aware of spectrum, right? Spectrum, you studied about it. What do you mean by spectrum?
A range of anything.
Yeah, spectrum is range. In this case, since we're studying about electromagnetism and all that, it is the range of light, like the Vibgyor colors that you see. So it's also called continuous spectrum. Where is it? Here it is. There you go. Like the set of colors that you have, like it is usually represented in this set of colors because these are visible to us. So this is a continuous spectrum because it's not like chunks of it. It is like a continuous range. Like each one is blending into another. Okay. So spectrum, continuous spectrum. This is the usual thing. So how do you get the spectrum is, how would you get this kind of a spectrum in real life if you had to get it on a screen?
You can take a CD, you can take a torch,
Oh
to
yeah.
close the lights of the room, and then just
You can use
turn the flash on the CD, so and it will reflect all the colors of the spectrum.
Wow. Yeah, that's a good way of getting it. How else, if you had to get it precisely in a laboratory, how would you get it?
a
Use a
prism.
prism to split white light.
Passing white light
Yes.
through prism.
Correct. So that's how you get a simple visible spectrum. Now, talking about line spectrum. So if you just use a prism and then make light go through it, it splits into 7 colors and you get a continuous spectrum. If you interrupt that flow, so if I, so look at this image over here. So line goes through prism, splits into colors. If I interrupt that flow by putting any sort of matter over here, I can put a cube filled with a gas, I can put a block of metal, or I can put some metal vapor, so a tube filled with only atoms of a particular metal or matter. If I put anything, any sort of matter in between it, then I will, what is observed is you don't get a normal continuous spectrum. So depending on your experimental setup, you may get 2 different types of spectrum. One, either you're going to see black bands in your spectrum, or if you're doing it in the dark, if you stop sending the light in, you may find white bands, white lines of specific colors in the spectrum. So the 2 types of spectrum, depending on the setup, they're called absorption or emission spectrum. There you go. So this is a continuous spectrum when white light is allowed to split without any interruptions. But if you put any matter, if you're interrupting that pathway with any matter before it goes into the prism, okay, that's an important point, then you're going to get something called absorption spectrum. So what's happening here is that particular matter that you put, remember how when I said that matter can get excited, and it gets excited by absorbing energy of certain wavelengths. So this is the visual representation of that. So wherever you find the black lines, that particular matter is absorbing those particular frequencies. So because that the atoms of that matter has taken away those lines, it's not getting transmitted to the other side. And because you're getting the spectrum as the light is getting absorbed, these are called absorption lines, or this is called an absorption spectrum. Now the matter is sufficiently excited, you exposed it to light, you switched off the light, and the setup is still the same. Then what you observe is something called the emission spectrum. So what's happening is that matter is getting de-excited. As it is getting de-excited from an excited level, it's coming down to ground state. It's losing energy. So that energy, basically whatever it has absorbed, is being emitted back. So that's why this is called emission lines or emission spectrum.
Ma'am, I'm sorry, I got disconnected. Could you repeat, after you said something about the matter getting excited? After that, what did you say?
Oh,
When you put
we discussed.
light.
Yeah, so we discussed absorption spectrum and emission spectrum. It's almost 4, right? I think it's time for you guys to leave, right? So this is the basic introduction of spectrum. Again, there's mathematics behind it, what wavelengths are getting absorbed, what is getting emitted. So next class, we'll get into detail. I'll show you guys some videos of how you form the spectrum and all of those things. But yeah, this is the basics of spectrum. And it's important because different matters, different elements, have a signature spectrum. It's how humans have fingerprints. you use fingerprints to identify humans, or you use DNA sequence to identify humans. Similarly, based on the spectrum lines, you identify what element it is. So if you come across, oh yeah, like the space mission has come back with rocks from the moon or rocks from the Mars, and then people could figure out that, oh, moon contains this much of calcium carbonate and this much of iron oxide, or it contains water. This is how it is. By analyzing the samples, you can figure out, okay, what elements are there based on the spectral lines that they give out. Or if you have a random chunk of metal, you want to figure out what it is. One way of doing it is chemical analysis. Another way of doing it is by using a spectral analysis. Okay, so that's why it's important, helps you to identify what it is. So you have all sorts of calculations and graphs that you can see here based on the spectrum. Yeah.
So you told after we keep an object in the path of the beam of light before it enters the prism. So
Yeah.
basically it absorbs it, and then we get those black color things. So that's the
Yes.
absorb part. Then how after we switch off the light, so still we can see it, right?
We
So
can't
if
see
there,
this particular spectrum. Yeah, Rajhans guys, yeah, you can leave. Your thing is starting now, no? So you guys can switch. Stop this.